David Ogg, getting you through the day.
On Nevis Radio.
Now, time-wise, 9:30 on this Wednesday morning, and we've got Malcolm there. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Last time we spoke, it was Glasgow, real mean city.
That was the one, yeah.
Yeah, and now we're talking about Whisky Wars, Riots and Murder. That's crime in the 19th century, Highlands and Islands. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I've got through the first few pages. We only got it the other day, but I'm interested in Whisky Wars.
Right. Major confrontations in Scotland in the 1820s when the Distilling Acts came into operation, and the Highlanders decided to make their own whisky and not pay tax.
So it's a bit like what they had in the Southern States, really, then, was it?
Yes, I think it is, and I think actually that's not far of the same sort of people as well.
Oh, right, really? Were they descendants, then?
It's quite possible. There's a large immigration from Scotland and from Ireland into the southern states of America, so I think their moonshiners are possibly related to our Pete Reek over here in moonshine in Ireland. So same sort of people, same sort of ideas, and the same sort of philosophy.
Fighting authority.
Fighting authority, yes.
Not paying the tax.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean,
what you mentioned, was it the Distillery Act? I mean, what was it all about?
Before the Distillery Acts, people could make their own whisky or beer and not pay tax for it.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it, you know, earlier on in that particular century, the water wasn't all that great, so that's why beer and ale came about, wasn't it?
That's right. Beer was a lot safer to drink than the ale or than the water was. Mm-hmm. And the water actually gave cholera eventually. In 1832, cholera came by spreading water. So no pure water, it was safer drinking beer. Even at school, they were giving small beer to the people in the morning, to the pupils in the morning. It sounds good to me, but probably not to them.
Yes. So prior to the Distillery Act, that was the situation we had, yes?
It was, yes.
Yeah. And then why did the Act come into force, and what happened?
Making money for the government.
Ah, right, okay.
Basically, it was just wasn't to do with health at the period at the time. It was to bring in revenue. Right. And then what happened because of that? Then the people go, listen, I'm not paying that. Well, was it quite a heavy tax then? It could be a heavy tax. Compared to nothing at all, it was very heavy tax. It came in different stages. It wasn't just one tax. It came in various periods through the 18th century and the 19th century. But it became heavier and heavier, and people decided not to pay the tax, to carry on making their own whisky. Right. So probably about 50% of the whisky in Scotland at one period was being made illegally and transported from the Highlands down to the cities in convoys of wee horses coming down from the hills. Mm-hmm. I think in boats as well from Campbelltown over to Glasgow. Right. Open boats. They called it Arran Water. Came from Ireland and Campbelltown into Arran, and from Arran up to Glasgow and Ayrshire. Right. And up the west coast, and from the central Highlands of Scotland to Aberdeen, Dundee, Perth. So it really was a huge cottage industry then? It wasn't much so much a cottage industry, it was just a huge industry. You're looking at hundreds of people here. Okay, and obviously, I mean, it wasn't. Was it families getting together? Was it bunches of rogues getting together? What was it? It was a mixture of both. Right. A mixture of both. You could say Glenlivet had about 200 people at one time making illegal whisky. Okay. So it's a big industry. Mm-hmm. And what did the government do about that then? Did they actually say, well, listen, you're not going to get away with this, we're going to close you down? Well, during the Napoleonic Wars, the government was quite tied up with the warfare and they couldn't do much about it. When the Napoleonic Wars ended in 1815, began to settle down more strongly against the distillers, and they had the army based in Scotland, in the Highlands, like Corgarth and Blairgowrie, and had patrols out, that excise man, and they had even wee boats offshore. Right. Where they could be on call for the men to come and help the local excise man to put down the distillers. Mm-hmm. They're actually fighting wars and shootings and killings and all sorts of stuff. Great. Happening in the hills. Doesn't sound like a pleasant experience at all. No, it doesn't. But we've got history books tell to think us that the Highlands were dead after 1745, and they all just settled down and got cleared, which is the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of spirited fighting going on there as well. Yeah. So I think it was a cottage industry, but it was also a way of expressing individuality. What happened with the revenue that this alleged cottage industry did make? Did it just go back into families and the groups of people? Industry wasn't very good in the Highlands at the time, so that was a way of making money. Right. When the whisky, illegal whisky, got pushed down, immigration rose. Ah, right. But immigration from the Highlands rose, so they didn't have anything to make money, so they were leaving. Yes. If there's a connection or not, it's hard to prove. I think there probably was. Okay.
And then we've got other things here. I mean, let's move into another part of the title of the book: Riots and Murder.
Lots of riots.
Really? And were they caused by the Distillery Act, or were they caused by the more clearances, or what were they caused by?
There was various different types of riots in the Highlands. There was the riots against the clearances, people trying to get cleared, and the protesting quite a lot. There were riots against cholera up in Wick. Wick was a massive town for riots. There were fishermen rioting in all the coastal towns at one time or another.
And why were they rioting?
There was a lot of dispute between the Highland fishermen and lowland fishermen.
All right.
Just for the culture clash.
Okay.
In 1847, 1848, there was a massive depression, as you know, as everybody knows, the Irish potato famine in Scotland as well.
Right.
And a lot of the Highland fishermen thought it was against them. Price rises were against them. Some were losing their jobs. They were not happy about this, so they thought, as Lowlanders attacking us, let's attack them back. There was actually a culture clash with the Gaelic speakers and non-Gaelic speakers, which caused some riots as well. And there was the lowland fishermen, Highland fishermen not getting on at all.
Grief. Turbulent times.
Turbulent times, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to clear your throat?
Thank you.
Okay.
Not the best thing to do in radio, is it?
Well, that's absolutely fine, because we're all human. I mean, the thing I was thinking about there, when you mentioned the clearances, because when people were cleared from the land, generally they were taken off, very good arable areas to allow the sheep and everything to go there, and then they were put to the coast and they were told to go fish.
That's correct.
So therefore, the current fishermen would have thought, hang on a minute, what's going on here? My livelihood's been affected. And that in itself would have caused turbulence.
I don't think that happened very often, because the people who were cleared often given to barren bits of land on the coast. They weren't given to recognised communities. They were given, there you are, there's a bit of bait, off you go and fish.
Right.
Though obviously they did move around.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happened. We've gone back a bit with my family history, and that's what happened to some of my family from the East Coast. They were taken from the West Coast to the East Coast, and so go fish. And seven brothers did of my family way back in 1800s, and they never came back. The boat sank, and they were all lost at sea. Seven brothers. But listen, I mean, so we got rioting going on. We've got the Distillery Act. It's fascinating stuff.
There were also riots about religion as well. In 1843, with the Great Disruption, that caused massive riots in the Black Isle.
Really?
Yes, it did.
It's not the sort of place, because I know the Black Isle very well. It's not the sort of place you would sort of think, there's been riots here,
Well, Resolus, which is in the north coast, the minister there declared to be a free kirk minister. Mm-hmm. The authorities wanted to put their own minister in, the established minister, and the local people gathered in the hundreds to protest against this, and there were stones getting thrown, there was pistol shots fired, and they called in the army eventually.
Good grief. At Rosilis, and it's a peaceful little hamlet.
It's a lively place, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely place.
There's nothing there, nothing to worry about.
No, there's nothing to worry about. So, I mean, obviously, we're talking about rural locales. We're talking about people of such diverse communities as well, particularly if new people are coming into the area. It's not going to be good for them.
No, it's not. I think it was a very close community, and they did not like any interference at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it clanship, I certainly call it a family community.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, we're talking about over 100 years after Culloden, aren't we?
For that one, yes. Yeah, it was 1843. Culloden was 1746.
Yeah.
So you're looking at about 100 years later.
Yeah.
So there's no clan chiefs or anything involved in this.
Yeah. And what about? I mean, obviously, from my interpretation of what you're saying at the moment, so the government came down quite heavy on the people of the Highlands then.
The government came down very heavy on the people of the Highlands. In Tiree, there was protests in the 1880s to try and get some land. It was a depression. They're looking for some land for the crofters.
Right.
And you've got the Navy coming in as well, the Royal Marines. Got a flotilla of ships coming into Tiree from Portsmouth and from Glasgow, carrying Royal Marines and the Royal Navy to stop these couple hundred crofters.
Yeah. I mean, that really it does smack of a heavy-handed British Empire type tactics, isn't it?
Gunboat diplomacy.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that happened abroad. We did it abroad as well, didn't we?
We did indeed.
Don't mess with us, we'll send a flotilla in, and we did it, and we captured the land, and the history speaks for itself, really. So therefore, it started here then, and then we took this sort of gun, as you say, gunboat diplomacy, and we took it abroad as well.
It was exactly the same idea as in Africa or in the northwest frontier of India, or in Ireland as well, of course.
That's true.
If in doubt, send in the army and the navy.
Yeah, and I mean, was there just thinking about people being people? Was there ever a time where the army or the police force or whoever they sent in to quell the riots that they were related to the people they tried to quell?
I haven't found any direct relationship, but the Glasgow police went into Skye, and the Glasgow police were often recruited from the Highlands.
Aye.
So I think distantly, yes.
Yes. So you're going to have relative against relative?
Distant relative against relative, yes, yeah. It's a possibility.
It's very upsetting, of course, as well. And after everything was sorted regarding Ciliat and everything, memories go back a long way, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Would it be incorrect for me to say that perhaps there would have been family feuds going on then from one side to the other?
I haven't come across any major family feuds for these purposes.
Right. Okay.
I'm not saying they weren't there, but I haven't come across any.
You haven't come across any. All right, okay, so how long does this book take you to put
together?
It's about
9 months.
15 months, okay.
About 9 months.
9 months?
9 months, yeah.
That's a long time. Well, what's your next one? Because, I mean, you've got a whole load of them, haven't you?
Next one's Aberdeen.
An Aberdeen one?
Yeah, that's coming out in April, we think.
When do you sleep?
Not very often.
And the book's available now, yes?
It is, yes.
Okay.
That's today, yeah.
Whisky Wars, Riots and Murder, Crime in the 19th Century, Highlands and Islands. If you're in the Highlands and Islands as we are, I recommend this book highly. And you talk about, as you mentioned there, you're talking about fishing boats. I mean, you talk about people. I'll just grab a page 84. Constable Roderick Mackenzie. What's the story with him?
That's a good name for a constable. 84. Hold on a second. I have to bring this back to my mind as well.
Okay. I just thought I'd grab the book and just see if you knew what it was. Yeah, so look, what's it talking about here?
Well, he was up in Caithness.
Right.
So he had a quiet life normally.
Yeah.
There was a burglary, and he actually followed a man right across Caithness into Sutherland, traced his footsteps basically, asked the local people where any strangers, followed him to Strathnaver.
Yeah.
And they actually arrested him. So this man's actually a tracker as well as a policeman.
Good grief.
Tonto himself.
Wow.
Tonto in the Highlands, but better.
and you talk about another fellow, next page, 87, Constable Donald Cameron. He's from Port Appin, which is close to us here.
Just on the road, yeah, that's
yes.
Right. He's actually quite lots about him. He was quite he had an ordinary, decent beat down that area.
Yeah.
And he had the usual things with the petty assaults, petty theft. So he was just keeping the peace in a rural area. And he did a very good job, apparently.
Yeah, I'm looking at quite a bit about him. There's a couple of pages about him.
Yeah, he did his bit.
So, well done to him. I mean, just down the road from here. And were there any prisons about? Because we all know the main prison in the area now is Porterfield, but were there any sort of small local prisons?
Every small town had its own prison. Even Fort William had a small prison.
All right, where was that then?
In Fort William.
Oh, I know that, but where about in Fort William?
I do not know.
You don't know? Okay.
I don't know.
I'm sure somebody will phone me and tell me.
I'm sure there were more than I do. But every place had its own small prison. Like Tain had its prison, Dungwell had its prison. Inverness obviously has his prison as well.
Yeah.
So every wee town had its own toll booth.
Right.
Which was the local jail as well, local lockup.
Okay. So ne'er-do-wells, that's where they ended up.
That's where they ended up for a few days or a few weeks or a few months.
Okay. And what happened at the end of the riots? I mean, what was the game at the end? What happened? What was the end play?
End game normally brought in the army or a lot of police, and they had the place blitzed.
Yeah.
The number of people who get arrested and put into jail. Mm-hmm. If you're very unlucky, you get transported to Australia for a number of years, which you don't want.
Well, you don't want that.
No, I don't want that.
No.
Or if when that ended in 1868, they would have a penal servitude, which is like being a slave in the jail for a number of years, which is pretty terrible as well.
Oh no. So the government did come down very, very heavily on people that they supposed to be were offenders.
They did. They actually, there was a scale of a retaliation, if you wish, or punishments, from very, very minor, 50 pence fine, 10 shilling fine, right up to 714 or lifetime in transportation. So if it's a first offender, you probably get let off quite lightly.
Yeah.
But if you're there as a habitual thief, you'd go away for a long time.
When I was on my holidays a few weeks ago, I went to an industrial museum, and in that industrial museum they had some examples and bits and pieces from the old prison that they had down in that particular area. And they actually had a birching post.
Yep.
And that was used quite regularly, apparently.
Yeah, they had birching mostly for young boys, actually.
Yeah.
But they had a bench here, they put the face down on the bench. I think it ended in 1848. It's a 19th this century, anyway.
Yeah.
So it's fairly recent they carried it on.
I looked at this thing and I thought, oh, that looks very, very sore.
Yeah, I wouldn't volunteer for it.
No, I wouldn't volunteer. Well, listen, it's been a real joy talking to you once again. Thank you very much indeed, Malcolm. And no doubt we shall talk to you about your next book.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure to be on. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
Help! I can't turn the tap off!